day. My name is Veronica Jenkins, third grade level chairperson. We know our children are quite competitive. We've seen them grow and go to different states. I'd like to know, what do you think that you can do to keep our children right here in South Carolina instead of going other places to seek the best jobs, to have the best jobs for their futures?
I believe that most of the people that leave the state are doing so for employment. But right now, because of the way things have worked, because of our institutions, three major research institutions, the best technical college system in the world, and the magnificent port of Charleston in a few years is going to be on par with New York, New Jersey, that port. All the natural resources. We are a very low labor union state, because I think we're 1.9%, because the jobs are so good in these big companies that there's the workers don't think they need any help, and they get along just fine. But all of those things will attract more and more jobs. And part of my job is to see to it that the companies that are here want to grow here and want to stay here, and the companies that are interested from around the world settle here. And we're one of the fastest growing states economically in the country. In some categories we're number one, some we're number two. But if we can have jobs for the people, good paying jobs, and these jobs coming in now are good paying jobs, and our technical college system is probably the real key to those jobs. And if we can provide that, then they won't leave. And if they have left, as we were speaking earlier, they want to come home, as they did in homecoming. You're with 18,900 people showing up. Excuse me, it's $7 a head. Yes. So, but we need to have some economic growth in a lot of our counties. Some of them are doing just fine. But we can't make these companies go to a particular county. It doesn't work that way. But if we can point out the advantages and point out, like this county is close to the interstate, it's peaceful, it's clean, there are a lot of and great people. We eventually will have to do that. She's got the same cough I've got. We need to do that in order to keep the young people here, and also provide a better quality of life for everybody else.
How are you and your offices in the State Department working to prepare and retain teachers? I think we had 68,000 or 6,800 teachers that left the teaching profession last year. So how are y'all looking at preparing future teachers and retaining the teachers that you already have to stay in the profession and to even stay in the state?
Some parts of the state is easy, and keeping them is easy, where you have a very high tax base, which we do not have here in Lee County. And also in the rural areas, for a lot of, particularly the younger teachers, there's not much to do. And they want more activities, more libraries, more restaurants, movie theaters, 1,001 different things. And a lot of parts of our state just don't have that. A lot of the school districts and a lot of the counties. So that takes us back to the previous question, where to get them to want to be here and want to come here, you have to have that kind of economic growth and prosperity. Economic growth and prosperity solves all kind of problems. I've seen it myself. I was U.S. Attorney and Attorney General and other things along the way, and a lawyer for a lot of years. But when you have economic growth and prosperity, health is better, education is better, divorces go down, marriages go up. What else? The opioids used to be other things. A lot of your drug problems diminish; they don't go away, and everything gets better. So it's all related to that economic growth. If we lived in a desert, which we don't, nobody would come. And if we lived in the Garden of Eden with great economic growth on top of that, which is actually what we are. People don't know that. This is the best place to be. If every place were like the places where economic growth is attached in the state, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So what we have to do is be sure that we get that kind of prosperity into the rural areas, and when that happens, everything changes. All the things that we need to do, there's not enough money, and there never will be enough money to do all that we want to do. We got a 6-foot bed and a 4-foot blanket is what we got. So what we need to do is get out of the business of managing scarcity and get into the business of creating abundance. And that's the answer. And that all goes back to economic development, but you can't have sustained economic development if we don't have educated and trained people that can support it.
And basically it's dealing with parents, because I've always said that if we help the issues that are going on at home with our children, that would help make them better in the school system. And I feel that if there's any type of funding that would better help parent education, probably having professionals coming doing workshops with the parents to help them see how they could better help us with their children. And there may even be family issues that they may need to face, that they may need help with. So that's one of my main concerns, is helping parents.
I'm firmly convinced that if we can have great principals and great teachers and eliminate poverty, we'll go, there you go. So that gets us back to how do we eliminate poverty? Because a lot of the parental problems and shortcomings and challenges that you're referring to are the result of perhaps a lack of education, a lack of opportunity. So it's going to be a long process, but if we can change that, make a fundamental changes in that, eventually that problem will reduce. But what are we going to do about the situation right now? And is the principal, the superintendent, and I and us, we were talking earlier, there are programs that would, and efforts and initiatives that would teach and counsel the parents on the way to do things. As she said, Dr. Andrews, even starting as early as when you hear that there's an expectant mother, to start providing information. But all that takes time and often takes money, and that's what we don't have enough of. But again, we need to prioritize our programs. For instance, instead of widening a road, you might want to repair the old one first. That's a priority. Instead of building a new one, you need to find out where your real needs are. We've wasted money in the state system with good intentions. I don't challenge that. But a child coming from a happy home, put it that way, starts off much better than a child that's lacking that.
Lionel Pearson, media specialist. My question is, what can we do to encourage more of our students to go into the field of education?
Very good question. I like to hear what y'all think about that. But one thing is I believe that the people that go into teaching, go into education, like those who go into law enforcement, for example, will settle for a lower compensation that they would like to have, and a lower compensation than they would be given were the funds available. I know a lot of these law officers, they put their lives on the line. I went to the graduation, 39 new state troopers yesterday in Columbia, and they're not getting the kind of pay, kind of compensation commensurate with what they do. Keep in mind a highway patrolman, a state trooper, might be at 4 o'clock in the morning and gets a radio warning and gets a signal and pulls the car over, and is suspicious handling of their car, and he or she walks up there and they don't know if they're going to get shot or not. And how much would they have to pay some other people to take that chance just one time, and they do it every day? And that's essential to the functioning of our society. Without law and order, we can't do anything. So, but without education, we can't do anything either. So that's a good question. I'd like to know what ideas you have. I've heard a lot from the superintendent here, and I tell you, we covered a lot of ground, and we almost use the same words in describing our vision and the situation. Yeah. That's right, remarkable.
In the light of recent events with the decisions that's being made with education, especially from our administration, what can our state do to ensure that our students, especially those that are in a low socioeconomic area, are not left behind? What can we do to ensure that not only they have equality, but equity, meaning a level playing field?
That's the big question, and I think it all stems back to economic development and vision and accountability. And I firmly believe if we have good principals, good teachers, adequate buildings, the buildings need to be safe and clean. They don't have to be brand new, but they need to be safe and clean. And if you put good teachers and good principals, thank you, baby. Thank you very much, Miss Lewis. I'm taking her home with me. I tell what y'all ought to do is one day is let me know when you want to do it and come to the mansion. Mm-hmm. One thing that I believe, if you inspire the young people and give them a feeling and understanding of how the world works and how far they can go, if they put their minds to it. And what was the expression you used? You said, we don't have great money, but we have great minds. And I think that's amply demonstrated right here, don't you think?
Yes, sir.
I thought so. But come to the mansion and take a look at it. And it's a beautiful place. It's 9 acres. It's gorgeous, and it's like a preview to the state. The woodwork, the architecture is wonderful. And the state capitol, I think, is the prettiest one in the whole country. But these children need to see that. They need to be inspired. And I believe that all of us, there's always a child watching. I tell people, I told those troopers that yesterday, there's always a child watching. That's right. In fact, a lot of times I find that the good things I do, I say, my daddy did that. That's how he did. A lot of things he did I thought were kind of silly. Turned out I'm doing the same thing. They're real smart. So there are a lot of ways to get there, but we got to keep working on it. But again, you keep going back. We've got to have economic development. We have to have, or another way to say is prosperity. We got to have. So how do you get that? And that's been addressed in some of these other questions. But I'll tell you, if we don't do it, these other states they have some things that we don't have. They don't have as much poverty in the rural areas or in other areas as we do. But we have things that they never gonna have, like that ocean, like the mountains, like these people. These institutions we have, great research institutions that work together. I've seen some things that are absolutely off the scale. Nobody in the world is doing it. For instance, up at Clemson, they have millions of dollars worth of equipment with which to teach these students who are coming from high school and the technical colleges to learn how to work on all kind of things. And what do they have there? They have high school students, technical college students, bachelor's candidates, master's candidates, PhD candidates, and PhD professors from all over the place, and vehicles, some of them stripped down from BMW. And this team of people is figuring out new things to do using smart technology and all this new stuff that's coming along. And they're reporting back to BMW and saying, try this. They imagine it and do it, and then they give it to BMW and they put it on their car. You know how many people have that range of students and professors and such in one place, working together, shoulder to shoulder in the world, one. That one. We have things like that all over this state. We need to let that be the inspiration and the goal of everything we do.
Hi, Governor McMaster. I'm Mr. Dominique Wells, 4th grade level chair here at Bishopville Primary School. And my question would be, some of us teachers, we have a great opportunity to work with our students in our after-school program, and it's a very good program. The students receive extra academic support as well as enrichment opportunities to expose them to 21st century skills and programs. What can you tell us about the importance of how you feel about after-school programs, and also about the future of continuing to receive funding for those types of programs? Receive funding, yes, sir.
That takes us back to priorities and the fact that we got a 6-foot bed and a 4-foot blanket. We have to make the priorities. We have to put the money where it counts. But the after-school programs, a lot of times I think that's where the real inspiration comes from. And I'm all for it. In fact, I wonder sometimes if our school year, which was developed when we were mainly agricultural, because the young people had to go do the crops and all that during the summertime, we might ought to think about doing something else and extending that, because I think we'd have to extend the compensation as well. But we have, just looking at these children here, you see the bright minds and the future. This is the future. So I would say any kind of program. What we're trying to do, a teacher is the one that can flip that switch. It might be by example, it might be by teaching them something, it might be a word you say, you never know what it is. But a lot of that will come in after school programs. And one thing I don't think we fully take advantage of enough in our state is the power of volunteers. The volunteers are wonderful, and we got people moving into this state from all over the world. These big business executives that could go anywhere are coming to South Carolina. Some people, they have 5 homes, and one of them somewhere in South Carolina. Some of them have one in the mountains and one on the coast, and their real house is in Connecticut or someplace. That tells us something about the people, something about the atmosphere. There's something different about South Carolina. And I told you about the handshake state reputation. Well, here's the other one. They say South Carolina is the friendliest place I've ever been. The man said, I was walking down Main Street in some town, and everybody I passed said hello to me, and good morning, how you doing, sir, or good afternoon. He said, nobody does that where I come from. And I also have heard in different ways from different people. They say, I can always tell when I'm in South Carolina. How's that? They say, because when I go to a restaurant, I don't need a map. I don't need somebody to tell me where I am. But when I go to the restaurant, between getting my coffee and paying my bill, the waitress will call me honey, sweetie, darling, and dear, and probably hug me on the way out the door. Says South Carolina's different. But that difference is the thing that is drawing these people who could go anywhere to South Carolina. Now, we have business executives, you have people that have invented things, you have highly skilled, highly talented, highly educated people. And if we invite them to come to the school and teach a course or give a lecture, they'll do it for free. They have to decide whether to drive the BMW, the Mercedes, or which car they're going to drive here. But they'll come and they'll do it. And we need to access that kind of talent, because that might be where a phrase, a word, an example, or something might turn on that switch that doesn't get turned on many places.
Like we said, a lot of young people are coming into education, but they're not staying. For retirees, a lot of retirees have been called back and came back into education. What kind of incentives that you have to offer retirees that are returning to education?
Well, I think we have to pay them.
Yeah.
And I think we have to encourage them to come back. We don't have enough teachers. There are not enough young people going into teaching. And as I say, in law enforcement and teaching, those are probably the two professions where you have more people willing to do it for less money than they ought to be making of any of any of the professions. But retired teachers, my point of view might be different from others. My daddy, as I mentioned, was a lawyer. He tried he and I practiced law together with some other people. And he tried his last case when he was 93. He finally retired when he was 99 from practicing and passed away peacefully at almost 3 weeks short of 101. The word retirement was not in his vocabulary. I think that's something we've overlooked, much as we have overlooked the value of a technical education which uses your brain and your hands. We've overrated the value of retirement. I think if you're doing what you want to do, and for a lot of people that's travel and read and visit the families and visit the country, but if you really enjoy what you're doing, I think you can do it a long ways past 55 or 65 or 75, or as my daddy tried his last case in 93, jury trial, and won it. Wow. So we all real young, ain't we? See? We need to encourage people, I would say, not to retire, and those that do retire and want to come back, I understand there's a cap on coming, $10,000. So those we have to think a little bit more on those things. I think that discourages what you're talking about. And discouraging teaching is a bad thing.